So Stephen Miller only wants white people in America. Are we shocked? The crazy part is everybody knew this man was a white Christian nationalist, and you let him in. He's even more far right and more far white than Donald Trump. Trump even recognized his obsession when it came to immigrants. Stephen Miller said if it was up to him, only 100 million people would be in the country. That is only white people. White people only. Yeah, Project 2025 is looking real fucking real now, ain't it? I wonder who's really running the White House now. Because Trump said that he wasn't going to fuck with farms and hotel workers. But he's in that ass now. And I don't think it was him. For once, I didn't even think it was him. For all you non-white people that voted for Trump, how do you feel now that they're trying to ethnically cleanse us out of the fucking United States? I mean, it's going to be real hard to get rid of black folks because, you know, African Americans in particular, because we ain't got nowhere to go but here. But for everybody else, how the fuck do y'all feel now?
God gave us this country. Our founding fathers fought and died for this country. Generations of Americans have sacrificed and bled for this country, and we are not going to let the radical left, the communists, and the America haters take our country. It's not going to happen. Not now, not ever. But it's going to take everyone in this room to stand with President Trump each and every day, to stand by his side every single day.
This message goes to all the maggots, all these Trump supporters. Do you know who Stephen Miller is? I'm going to tell you a little bit. Son of an immigrant, son of a Jewish immigrant, yet he's racist, misogynist, classist, fucking scumbag and cuck of a human fucking being. He's the one responsible for bankrolling everything Donald Trump is doing. In fact, the signal message, you remember those? I think fucking not. This bitch is out here approving these attacks on Yemen, approving these attacks overseas. No word from Trump. He says the president says yes. He said the president says, bitch, he doesn't even talk to the president. He's a motherfucking billionaire and the guy that you really should be fucking mad at, except you want to suck his fucking smegma out his, you bitch alka. Fuck these Trump supporters and fuck these maggots.
You ever wonder what happens when a high school troll grows up and gets access to federal power? You get Stephen Miller. And this man didn't just whisper in Trump's ear. He wrote the whole damn playbook. Stephen Miller isn't just some advisor. He's the author behind Trump's most cruel, racist, and authoritarian politics. And he did it quietly, in a suit, all while pretending that it was about national security. You remember the Muslim ban? That was Miller. Family separation at the border? That was Miller. Trying to strip citizenship from immigrants legally living here? Yep, Miller. He's the reason zero tolerance became a government slogan. The man crafted policy like it was fan fiction for fascists. And you want to talk about connections? Stephen Miller was mentored by Richard Spencer, the actual white nationalist who coined the term alt-right. They went to Duke together, and Miller invited him to campus. Let that sink in. The dude writing U.S. immigration policy was once boosted by a literal neo-Nazi. And don't think he disappeared when Trump left the first time. He started a legal group called America First Legal, designed to sue the government every single time it tried to be decent. Trying to stop DEI programs? That's Miller. Attacking asylum protections? That's Miller. Lawsuits to block civil rights policies under the radar? Also Miller. And the scariest part is that he's not a loudmouth. He's a strategist. He's not tweeting insults. He's writing executive orders. He learned that power isn't about being liked. It's about embedding your ideology so deep within the system that even after you're gone, your fingerprints stay on the walls. Stephen Miller doesn't just advise Trump. He built a machine, one fueled by fear, whiteness, and legal loopholes. And it's still running. It's just a little quieter now. So we all know the bigotry has definitely resurfaced. We can see that in the court dockets, the school bans, and the borders. Stephen Miller never left. He just sharpened his horns and put on a nicer tie.
Let's talk about Stephen Miller. Do you remember him, Stephen Miller? He was behind some of Trump's most controversial U.S. immigration policies. He is one of Trump's senior advisors and the architect behind the separation of families along our southern border. And even when it caused havoc and trauma for the kids, he said with confidence it was a win. But you don't have to take my word for it. You can read a book that was written by Jean Guerrero, who is a journalist, and it is called Hate Monger. She wrote a book tracing how Miller radicalized, connecting with white nationalist figures from a very young age, in spite of the fact that he was born into a Jewish family. His own uncle, by the name of David Glossier, a neuropsychologist, has called him out for betraying his Jewish roots and going against the teachings of tradition. And then there is this. Miller blocked mental health services for the children who were separated from their families at the border. He repeatedly blocked a Department of Justice plan to provide therapy to these traumatized kids who he was responsible for traumatizing. His own former colleagues have described him as a man with a view of cruelty as strategy mindset. We must never forget that policies don't come out of nowhere. They come out of the mindset of minds like his, and they matter. Steve Miller, in my mind, exemplifies one of those individuals where we can say hurt people, and he does so with impunity and a coldness about him. I'd like to end with this quote from Albert Einstein, who reminds us that the world will not be destroyed by those who do evil, but by those who watch them without doing anything.
Now, good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, Africans. I hope you're faring well where you are, and if you're not faring well, please fare well where you are. So there's a man by the name Stephen Miller. Stephen Miller is a popular guy, a guy who is of influence to the American society. And we understand that American society is a multi-racial society. And we have marginalized groups, and then we have the dominant groups. The dominant group in the US, we know, is the white people. And then the marginalized are people like the Black people, the Hispanics, the Latinas, the Mexicans, the Asians, the Chinese. Think of all that, right? So America lately has been having problems. We've had problems with Trump. Trump has been seeking to make America great again. You see, making America great again means oppressing a group of people, right? Making America great again is not a philosophy of morality. It is a philosophy of superiority and oppression, right? So this Mr. Stephen Miller, with his popular influence, is trying to propose something absurd, very absurd actually. He's trying to say that all other races, apart from white, should only remain in America. All other races should leave and leave alone the white Americans in America for them to thrive. They're saying that these other races are the reason why America is crashing. So I have a question before you watch this reaction. Was a Black person responsible for Trump's decision to do what he did to Iran? Did we decide for him? No, I don't think we decided for him. He decided for himself. Now let's listen to Stephen Miller and his absurd thoughts. I shall get back by the end of the video, where we shall also have a deep critical analysis. Let's dive in.
Look, anyone who didn't know before, you know now. Stephen Miller is a dangerous, unhinged man who is dictating most of the policy in this country right now. The Wall Street Journal just did a report today that says Trump in private has said that if it was up to Stephen Miller, there would only be 100 million Americans in this country. Just let that sink in. There's actually, right now, about 350 million Americans. So Stephen Miller, if he had it his way, would get rid of 250 million Americans because they don't look exactly like him. Why is anyone voting Republican still? Like, what could you possibly support about this? I mean, okay, just take that on its face for a minute. Where are you going to put 250 million people? Most of them, American citizens born in America. Where does he want to send them to? What Miller wants is the same thing that the mustache guy wanted back in Germany in the 1930s. That's what he wants. Only people with this color skin in this country. That's what he wants. Anyone who's voting for this has problems.
I went to high school with Stephen Miller, and he's always been an evil little dweeb. Our biology teacher refused to give Stephen permission to handle the animals because she said that he was not fit to interact with living things. So she gave him a Tamagotchi for our animal unit, and he literally just sat in the corner all semester and starved it. One time in English class when we were reading Fahrenheit 451, Stephen began to weep. When the teacher asked why he was moved to tears, Stephen said that the book burning was so beautiful and that he couldn't hold back. He was also just overall a strange guy. Like, he would take those baby carrots and instead of like eating them normally at lunch, he would suck on them slowly. And he would eat them all day for like hours. The whole school kind of united around how much we disliked Stephen. Like, he tried to invade the Dungeons and Dragons club and take over their game, but they said they didn't want a totalitarian dungeon master, so the football players came to physically escort him out of the Dungeons and Dragons game. During AP Psychology, we had a whole unit on socially aberrant behavior, and part of that included taking a psychopath test. Stephen was always very defensive about it. He said, "I'm nothing like this. Don't make me take it." And she said, "I won't make you take the test, Stephen, if you stop lurking." At the end of the day, Stephen really never did himself any favors. So he didn't get invited to a lot of parties. In fact, whenever we had a school party, everyone was invited except Stephen because he was so mean. So he would call the police and then show up at the house where the party was taking place. And then the police would look at him and say, "I see why nobody invited you to this party. We're not going anywhere. Please leave, you rat." So even the cops hated him. This is satire, but none of this would surprise me because this man is disappearing people. They are evil. Call your legislator, demand justice.
We have some big news right now. According to the Wall Street Journal, Donald Trump previously said that if it was up to Stephen Miller, his White House Deputy Chief of Staff, there would only be 100 million people in the United States of America, and they would all look like Miller. Miller is a white guy. In this new explosive report from the Wall Street Journal, it cites a number of White House colleagues of Miller's who are becoming increasingly alarmed at the legal maneuvers he is taking to conduct mass deportation efforts. And Donald Trump himself, according to the Journal, has even ribbed Miller for being, quote, too happy when deporting undocumented migrants from America. But I want you to read this passage with me. He has the president's complete trust. Trump's complained about everyone, never him. Trump may not complain about Mr. Miller, but he does occasionally poke at his obsession with immigrants, a hostility that goes far beyond Mr. Trump's. In one meeting during the 2024 campaign, Trump said that if it was up to Miller, there would be only 100 million people in this country and they would all look like Miller. This is the man Trump is putting in responsible for most of the policy in America. Spread the word so more people are aware. I'll do a full breakdown on my Substack, linked in bio, so subscribe for free and follow along for more.
So Stephen Miller is upset because Trump is having to back off of his terrorist plans to cause chaos and just deport people whether they need to be or not. So they're trying to sidestep judges and having ICE show up at immigration hearings. Well, here's how you stop those Gestapo tactics. Judges, hold all your immigration hearings via Skype or some other means where they don't have to show up physically in person at all. Don't make the job of ICE any easier. Stephen Miller is a fucking parasite, and anyone who works for him in ICE, parasites. They're what's wrong with America. Having an American Gestapo is the most un-American thing possible. Stephen Miller, hold your breath until a fucking adult asks you to speak again, loser.
You ever wonder what happens when a high school troll grows up and gets access to federal power? You get Stephen Miller. And this man didn't just whisper in Trump's ear, he wrote the whole damn playbook. Stephen Miller isn't just some advisor. He's the author behind Trump's most cruel, racist, and authoritarian politics. And he did it quietly, in a suit, all while pretending that it was about national security. You remember the Muslim ban? That was Miller. Family separation at the border? That was Miller. Trying to strip citizenship from immigrants legally living here? Yep, Miller. He's the reason zero tolerance became a government slogan. The man crafted policy like it was fan fiction for fascists. And you want to talk about connections? Stephen Miller was mentored by Richard Spencer, the actual white nationalist who coined the term alt-right. They went to Duke together, and Miller invited him to campus. Let that sink in. The dude writing U.S. immigration policy was once boosted by a literal neo-Nazi. And don't think he disappeared when Trump left the first time. He started a legal group called America First Legal, designed to sue the government every single time it tried to be decent. Trying to stop DEI programs? That's Miller. Attacking asylum protections? That's Miller. Lawsuits to block civil rights policies under the radar? Also Miller. And the scariest part is that he's not a loudmouth. He's a strategist. He's not tweeting insults. He's writing executive orders. He learned that power isn't about being liked. It's about embedding your ideology so deep within the system that even after you're gone, your fingerprints stay on the walls. Stephen Miller doesn't just advise Trump. He built a machine, one fueled by fear, whiteness, and legal loopholes. And it's still running. It's just a little quieter now. So we all know the bigotry has definitely resurfaced. We can see that in the court dockets, the school bans, and the borders. Stephen Miller never left. He just sharpened his horns and put on a nicer tie.
I'm a man of faith, Stephen, and I'm certainly not a man of fear. So let's just cut to the chase. Let's not get it twisted. Your administration, this administration, and the people who support it are making history on changing who we are as a multicultural society. Folks like Stephen Miller, Pete Hegseth, and Pam Bondi and others are showing us that they don't believe in the co-equal branches of government or the checks and balances within our society. And the people in the White House, in your little bubbles, you actually think that the aura of your chaos is sustainable. Think about it. Think about it. I want you to think about it. I mean, Trump is 80 years old, and you are in your mid-40s, and some of y'all are in your mid-50s. Y'all actually think, and that's young in the modern era, you actually think it's funny and entertaining for Fox News and other outlets to show how cruel you are, how incendiary you are to the American people. Oh yeah, let's just stick it to the libs. Okay, but think about the sustainability and all the wrongdoing that you're inflicting on the people. And you think that you're going to get away with this? I mean, in life, you always pay the piper, homie. Our history, or the world history, has shown this time and time and time again. You will not get away with what you're doing. The international community are watching us. Our kids are learning from us as the world look on and discuss. My message is this. Enjoy it now, Stephen Miller, because just as history has shown, a reckoning is coming and America is waking up, okay? And when they do, look out, partner. Last time I checked, you're definitely not Donald Trump's age.
Always follow the money. Stephen Miller, remember that name. It is finally disclosed. He has stock and interest in Palantir. Palantir that is contracted for government, detention, and ICE raids and immigration. Always follow the money. He is the one that is pulling the strings behind DJT. He is also part of Project 2025 and the Heritage Foundation. This is in many articles online. If you want to know who's running our government, it is Stephen Miller. Stephen Miller, Palantir, and it's all about the money. Has nothing to do with making America great. As I've said from the beginning, it is all about Republicans making money and making their friends rich. Don't believe me? Go ahead and Google Stephen Miller. You're going to find out a lot of information about this very evil 30-something-year-old.
Breaking news, Stephen Miller, Deputy Chief of Staff to Donald Trump, has between $100,000 and $250,000 worth of Palantir stock in his child's account that has just been discovered. Why is this a big deal? Palantir is the company that ICE is using to help with all these deportations and with tracking immigrants. In addition, Palantir is the same company that they're now looking to build this massive tracking system for all of us using our personal data collected through Doge under Elon Musk And this company is owned predominantly by Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel, who you may not know who he is, very involved with Heritage Foundation, with the far-right wealthy, is a billionaire, and he is the one who brought J.D. Vance into everything. He is the one that made J.D. Vance some of what he is, and definitely the one who put J.D. Vance where he is now politically. And all this is tied together, and it's needless to say always about money, but this was hidden in a child's stock account. And not quite sure how we found out about it, but it's breaking in the news as we speak now. So there you have it. Always money with these Republicans. If it's not money, they're doing something. I can't say that. Something else they shouldn't be doing. We'll leave it at that. Love you for my Democrats, my MAGAs, my crazies, my cuckoos, and my burned out light bulbs. $100,000 to $250,000 of Palantir stock in his child's account. Try to hide it. Looks like that looks like to me. What do you think?
Because there is fuckery about today. It is Saturday, June 21st. And apparently Trump just admitted privately that if Stephen Miller had his way, there would only be about 100 million Americans. Keep in mind that we have about 270 million people living here in this country. And they would all look like him. And it's seeming like, well, it is what it is. Like, we can't call it Christian nationalist because he's not a Christian. White supremacy? Like, what exactly do we call this at this point in time? And the fact that it's just being shrugged off and it's not going to make headline news? Are you fucking kidding me right now? Then to top it off, like, this is the shit that they're ramming down our throats while all the stuff is happening in the Middle East. And just to bring you up to speed on the Middle East, they are actually sending B-2 bombers over there. You know, the stealth ones? They don't start scrambling those unless they're actually going to use them. Then again, there were multiple reports that came out of Washington that said if the U.S. was going to do anything, it was going to do it this weekend. This is one of those times we got to keep our heads on a swivel, because the more things that are going on in the Middle East, the more they're going to try to jam past our consciousness here in the U.S. So be safe, keep your head on.
This man's family fled anti-Semitic violence in Eastern Europe and arrived in America with only about $8 to their name. This man is Stephen Miller, and he went on to become the architect of one of America's most hardline immigration policies. But that's not even the wildest part of this story. Stephen Miller's grandfather, Wolf Glasser, escaped the pogroms in Belarus in 1903 and made his way to the United States. He then opened a small clothing store in Johnston, Pennsylvania. This allowed the Glasser family to become a Jewish immigration success story. The Glasser department store grew so successful that it ended up employing thousands of people and led to wealth status for the entire Glasser family. The Glasser family belonged to a very conservative synagogue in Pennsylvania that had very important connections with the heritage of the Jewish faith and support of Israel as a state. This conservative background, fast forward, now Stephen Miller is born in Santa Monica, California, and he especially loves conservative talk radio, which pretty much integrated itself in him at a very early age. He went on to later study at Duke University and then work under Jeff Sessions. After that, he joined the Trump campaign in 2015 and was an integral role in Trump's speeches. During the Trump administration's first presidential appointment, he was the engineer of the Muslim travel ban and the enforcer of the families being separated at the border. You could say he believed in America first, but not the America that allowed his Jewish immigrant family to get into this country and succeed. Fast forward to today, where he's become Trump's deputy chief of staff and the Department of Homeland Security's advisor. And this is where it gets really wild. So according to the Signal Gate and the Signal chats, he wasn't just the person that was in on the conversation that was taking place on an unsecured network about military movements and decisions, but he was the deciding voice. Yes, you heard me right. According to the Signal chats, every indication implies that his voice was the final deciding factor on what the operation would entail and when it would be done, and the go-ahead. We did not hear from Trump personally on that Signal chat. Maybe Trump was in the room. We don't really know. But as far as we know, he was the deciding voice. When someone raised their objections, he quickly said, no, that's what the president wanted. But the president himself never actually gave the order. The order came from, you heard it, Stephen Miller. So if that wasn't worrisome enough, and we still don't know what's happened to Kilmar Albrego Garcia, I am worried that he is no longer with us. I don't know that for sure, but the fact that the Trump administration is refusing to return him and hasn't already is highly suspicious. But the fact that this man is making so many of these decisions, and it seems like with unlimited authority to speak for the president, I find that very disconcerting, and I wish that more people were talking about it. I haven't heard a lot of reporters talking about it, but I would really like to hear some and what they have to say. And also more of a deep dive into who this man is and where he's from, because I couldn't find too much information about him other than what I did find.
We have some big news right now. According to the Migrant Insider and Pablo Manriquez, Stephen Miller, the White House Deputy Chief of Staff leading these deportation efforts, has a financial stake in Palantir, one of the contractors used by ICE. This is raising significant conflict of interest concerns right now. According to Manriquez, Miller, who serves as Donald Trump's Deputy Chief of Staff, disclosed owning between $100,000 and $250,000 worth of Palantir stock as of mid-March. Palantir provides, quote, mission-critical data services for ICE. And to put this into perspective, Palantir was the company that was tasked with creating, remember that nationwide database of information on Americans? Yeah, that was this company. Now, the White House has defended Miller's disclosures and said that he will continue to, quote, recuse himself from decisions that could directly impact his personal investments. But he is actively leading the charge in this deportation effort. And if Palantir's work is mission critical, then that right there could be a conflict of interest. Spread the word. I'll do a full breakdown on my Substack, linked in bio, so subscribe for free. And as always, follow along for all the news you need to know about.
Look, anyone who didn't know before, you know now. Stephen Miller is a dangerous, unhinged man who is dictating most of the policy in this country right now. The Wall Street Journal just did a report today that says Trump in private has said that if it was up to Stephen Miller, there would only be 100 million Americans in this country. Just let that sink in. There's actually, right now, about 350 million Americans. So Stephen Miller, if he had it his way, would get rid of 250 million Americans because they don't look exactly like him. Why is anyone voting Republican still? Like, what could you possibly support about this? I mean, okay, just take that on its face for a minute. Where are you going to put 250 million people? Most of them, you know, American citizens born in America. Where does he want to send them to? What Miller wants is the same thing that the mustache guy wanted back in Germany in the 1930s. That's what he wants. Only people with this color skin in this country. That's what he wants. Anyone who's voting for this has problems.
I want to talk about Stephen Miller in the wake of these LA ICE enforcements. Stephen Miller, if you guys don't know, is Trump's Deputy Chief of Staff, White House Chief of Staff on policy. He's the architect behind all of these mass deportations. He's the one who just last week met with ICE leaders saying we need to step up arrests. 3,000 a day is the target. Like, why aren't you at Home Depot and 7-Eleven parking lots? And lo and behold, the next weekend, ICE raided Home Depot parking lots all over LA. Stephen Miller is actually from LA. I'm from LA, born and raised. He went to Santa Monica Public Schools. I went to Santa Monica Public Schools, but we have an 8-year age gap. So thankfully, I never overlapped with him. But just to show you the kind of person that Stephen Miller is, just to show that this is core to his identity, he's always been like this. He's always hated Hispanic people. Let me read an article that he wrote in high school in his junior year in the Santa Monica school newspaper. It's called Political Correctness is Out of Control. This was written in 2001. My name is Stephen Miller. I'm a 16-year-old junior at Santa Monica High School, and I was recently a guest on the Larry Elder Show to discuss a rampant political correctness that has consumed Santa Monica High School. When I entered Samo High in 9th grade, I noticed a number of students lacked basic English skills. There are usually very few, if any, Hispanic students in my honors classes, despite the large number of Hispanic students that attend our school. Even so, pursuant to district policy, all announcements are written in both Spanish and English. By providing a crutch now, we are preventing Spanish speakers from standing on their own. Okay, and then he goes on to say, more complaining about things. Sadly, my school has forgotten all of this. This is why we do nothing for American holidays, but everything for Mexican holidays. So that's him submitting something to the paper. Another article has a quote from one of his previous high school classmates. It says, in both high school and college, he would repeatedly be observed throwing trash on the floor and then insisting that the custodial staff pick it up. Quote, am I the only one here who is sick and tired of being told to pick up my trash when we have plenty of janitors who are paid to do it for us? He just is fucking racist. That's what he is. And he's now in charge of our national policy on immigration. He is directing ICE to carry out arrests and deportations. So no, they're not just trying to get the criminals, the violent ones. There aren't 3,000 a day worth of violent, undocumented criminals in the United States. The cruelty is the point, as it has always been with the Trump administration, and they are just free to do that more now because you all voted him in.
So Stephen Miller only wants white people in America. Are we shocked? The crazy part is everybody knew this man was a white Christian nationalist, and you let him in. He's even more far right and more far white than Donald Trump. Trump even recognized his obsession when it came to immigrants. Stephen Miller said if it was up to him, only 100 million people would be in the country. That is only white people. White people only. Yeah, Project 2025 is looking real fucking real now, ain't it? I wonder who's really running the White House now. Because Trump said that he wasn't going to fuck with farms and hotel workers. But he's in that ass now. And I don't think it was him. For once, I didn't even think it was him. For all you non-white people that voted for Trump, how do you feel now that they're trying to ethically cleanse us out of the fucking United States? I mean, it's going to be real hard to get rid of black folks because, you know, African Americans in particular, because we ain't got nowhere to go but here. But for everybody else, how the fuck do y'all feel now?
Am I the only one who is sick and tired of being told to pick up my trash? And we have plenty of janitors who are paid to do it all.
That's young Stephen Miller, and he's always been an asshole. He's Trump's Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy and Homeland Security Advisor. He's also known as Trump's brain. Leaked emails show he's a white nationalist, which isn't surprising given that he's behind immigration policies like family separation and the Muslim travel ban. His emails show that in 2015 and 16, he promoted white nationalist books, websites, and conspiracies to editors at Breitbart, a far-right news site. More than 80% of the 900+ emails reviewed focused on race or immigration, referring to the debunked conspiracy theory that non-white people are deliberately wiping white people off the planet. He referred to President Calvin Coolidge in his emails multiple times, backing his eugenics-based immigration policies once praised by Hitler. He was upset when some retailers stopped selling Confederate flags and symbols after the Charleston church shooting by white supremacist Dylann Roof, and encouraged Breitbart to create a counter-narrative. He often recommended articles from white nationalist websites like American Renaissance and Be There to highlight interracial crime. He pushed for coverage of The Camp of the Saints, a French novel loved by white nationalists for its racist depiction of non-white immigrants. He loves pushing false racist narratives so much that in 2017, as Trump's senior advisor, he reportedly blocked the release of a government study showing that refugees had a positive fiscal impact. But that's not all. He's friends with Richard Spencer, the most notorious white nationalist in the US. Spencer was a central figure to the Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville in 2017. This guy went to high school with Miller and had a lot to say.
Stephen Miller was never bullied in high school. Stephen Miller was the bully. He bullied the kids who are already marginalized by our society, and he continues to do that from the White House today.
Now, this man, Stephen Miller, who is the White House Chief of Staff, it's not a surprise that he's doing what his master tells him to do, right? His master is Trump. And we know how much Trump is a racist president. Yes, he doesn't care so much of other races. He only cares about his own race and the farewell of his own race, right? One thing we need to understand is this. The country of America is a country that was built by the black people. America was built by the black people. And if there's people who should be given priority people who should be given exemption, people who should be, celebrated, I believe it is the black people, because they are the reason why America is what it is right now. Black people are the reason why other races, other communities who are not originators or who are not inhabitants of US can come and thrive. It's the reason why the Chinese, the Indians, all can come and thrive. Also, black people are the reason why some white people came. We understand that America was a land of the native Indians, right? And so Columbus came and he influenced other people to come and visit this newfound land in which they came and they invaded. So if there is anyone who should be living, is the white people first, because they're the first invaders. They're the people who destabilized the peace of the United States of America. And I think they are the ones who should live first before any other person. Trump should go back to Germany. That white man should go back to some place in Europe. I don't know where. But America is not the ancestral land of these people, right? It's not the ancestral land. So it's just, people are just being racist. People are just being lovers of themselves, People are being hateful. And all this is just the propaganda of MAGA, Make America Great Again. I don't believe any race is making America fall. I don't believe that. America is very strong in its uniqueness. The races in America are what makes it stronger, not weaker. Yes. We need togetherness. We need one another. Messages like that of Stephen Miller are messages of separation. And we should not and never, ever pay keen attention to messages such as the one that Stephen Miller is trying to share. We have had people who came up front, people who are against black. You remember the group with the triple K? Yes. Those ones, they came and they left. We had some organizations came and they left. You can't not wipe out black people. You can't wipe out other races from existence. You don't have those capabilities. That is my message to you as you watch this video. Nobody has the power to wipe any race out of existence. It can never happen. Yes. So I hope you get value from my videos. If you do, kindly subscribe. I'll surely appreciate, and see you in the next one.